Texans! Brought to you by FanDuel. We love this segment. We love this guy. He's the best. Joining us from the Todd Fuhrman mansion in Las Vegas, Nevada. Here he is, Todd Fuhrman. Todd, I want to focus on the National Football League for our segment today. I want to start by focusing on some of these tight division races. Let's start with the AFC North. Ravens and Steelers face each other this weekend. They're battling out for the top spot. But here we go. Joe Burrow shows up last week, and all of a sudden the 4-8 Bengals are legitimately in this thing. So who are you betting to come out of this division on top?
I'd like to set the record straight, Jay, before we get into talking NFL divisional races, that I'm pretty sure the square footage of Casa de Onrait dwarfs what we have over here. What you don't know is that all you see right now for this very segment, this is the total square footage. So think of it like a New York City apartment. I got 120 square feet that I have to work in terms of sleeping, eating, and of course, contributing to your fine television program. But in terms of the AFC North and the pecking order there, look, I know the Ravens look like anything but the greatest thing since sliced bread on Thursday night last week, losing that game 32-14 at the hands of the Bengals. But I still keep waiting for them to figure it all out. I know Lamar Jackson has dealt with a myriad of injuries. It's a hamstring, it's a knee, it's an ankle, it's everything lower body related. But top to bottom, they still have the most complete roster in the division. And while this weekend on paper doesn't look to be that easy going up against the much maligned Pittsburgh Steelers, I think the Ravens will find a way. And while Joe Burrow has been a tremendous story, at least in his one-game return, they're going to need to beat the Bills, and they're going to have to sweep the season series against the Ravens. I just don't see that happening, so I'm willing to lay the big price that the Ravens figure it out and ultimately win this division.
All right, let's go to the AFC South, where a fractured fibula for Daniel Jones has opened things up a little bit. Now the Jaguars have the division lead. The Colts are in second spot. And don't forget about DeMeco Ryans' Houston Texans. They're lurking. How do you see it playing out?
Good on Daniel Jones, because if I had any sort of appendage that was fractured, Jay, you probably wouldn't see me for a good 6 months, let alone out on a football field trying to evade 300-pound defenders with 4.4 speed. But here we are with the Indianapolis Colts. And the problem for Indy is that they have the most difficult strength of schedule for their remaining opponents of any team, not just in this division, but in the entire league. And what we've seen over the last couple of weeks, teams selling out to take away Jonathan Taylor, forcing Daniel Jones to win it with his arm. And we're quickly being reminded this is the same quarterback who struggled for long stretches as a member of the New York Football Giants. So I'm not picking the Colts to win the division. The Texans will have their hands full on Sunday night as short field goal underdogs for their trip to Arrowhead. Look, I think if the Jaguars can upset Indy as short home underdogs, as much as I have some level of disdain for the ineptitude we see on full display from Trevor Lawrence more often than not, this feels like a Jaguars team that can run the football, they can stop the run, and as they get healthier in that defensive backfield, will be a force to be reckoned with. I'll pick the Jags to win the division, and I'll take the Houston Texans to finish second, with the Colts falling all the way to the third spot by the time the dust settles.
All right, believing in Trevor Lawrence. Here we go. Last season, Detroit and Kansas City finished first in their respective conferences. Todd, as you know, this season they're both fighting for their playoff lives. I guess my question is, do you see a scenario where both Detroit and Kansas City miss the playoffs this year?
Do I see a scenario where it happens? Sure. Do I think it happens? No, because I just can't quit this Kansas City team, Jay, until they're dead and buried like a villain in a scary movie that you'd watch on Halloween. I'm not going to write them off for dead. I know the offensive line is going to be reshuffled when we see them this weekend against the Houston Texans, but Patrick Mahomes, despite the win-loss record, is playing at arguably the best level that we have seen from the quarterback, especially when you dig into some of those fourth quarter metrics that he's put forth. Now, the Lions, on the other hand, have a massive game on Thursday Night Football against the Dallas Cowboys, and I'm legitimately concerned about Detroit as they deal with a rash of injuries, not just on the offensive side at the pass catcher spot with tight ends that are banged up, Amon-Ra St. Brown, but defensively, this mash unit of a defense is starting to look like the group we saw last year. I think the Lions are in a world of hurt. I think the Chiefs get in, and it's the Lions on the outside looking in.
And the Bears face the Packers this week. Todd Fuhrman, the Chicago Bears are currently the 1 seed in the NFC. Will they finish there, Todd?
They will not, Jay. And despite what Ben Johnson has done to resurrect the offense that we're seeing from the Chicago Bears. I think this schedule will challenge them a little bit more than Bears fans are willing to admit. Look, this team has been a phenomenal story, but so much of their success this year has been predicated on their ability to consistently win the takeaway battle. 17 interceptions as a group, absolutely unfathomable. And while they get healthier in the back end with the return of Jalen Johnson and Kyler Gordon, I do think this offense has some cause for concern. The passing game has been erratic, and while the ground game was on full display in their upset win against Philadelphia on Black Friday, I'm not sure that that can be the unit that they lean on week in, week out. Green Bay is going to provide a formidable task this weekend. And Jay, there's a reason that professional bettors have faded the Chicago Bears for 5 weeks in a row in the betting market. I think what goes up must come down. And in this case, it is the turnover ratio that has done the Bears so well to this juncture of the campaign.
Todd Fuhrman proving what he proves every single week on this show. It's not the size of your studio. It's how you use it. This has been Todd's Odds.